Welcome to the silent verdict.
With Clara Monroe and Elias Gray.
Imagine this. You get a phone call, right? And it leaves you totally more confused than before it even started. Even after you check with your own bank and the other bank involved. Today, we are jumping into a real head-scratcher. Seriously.
Yeah, this one's fascinating. It involves a check that definitely cleared, a really mysterious phone call from someone claiming to be from a bank security department, and just, well, a lot of questions left hanging.
So much confusion. Okay, our source here is a first-hand account, Steve.
Right, Steve's story. He basically went through this really baffling series of events. It started after he wrote a check, just a normal check, to a friend in another state.
Standard stuff.
Totally standard.
All right.
The check cleared his bank fine, but then he starts getting these weird calls. Calls that, frankly, just don't add up.
For you listening, try and unravel this with us. Was this actually some kind of legitimate, maybe just super weird bank thing?
Or, you know, maybe a really cleverly put together scam.
Wow.
Or something else entirely. That's what we're trying to figure out.
Okay, let's break down the facts step by step. So, Steve writes this check. It's payment for money he owed a friend. Friend lives in a different state.
And the friend gets the check, confirms it. All good so far.
Then Steve sees it clear his own bank account. Again, totally normal.
Right.
Nothing unusual.
Nothing yet. But then, pretty soon after it clears, that's when the weirdness starts. Slave starts getting these calls.
From a number he doesn't recognize.
Exactly. Unfamiliar U.S. number, area code he doesn't know, and voicemails. The messages say the caller's from the security department of a specific bank, and they're asking about a check. Now, Steve mentioned they didn't name the bank and the account he shared for privacy, I guess, but they were specific on the call.
Got it. So the voicemails are a bit vague initially, just a check.
Yeah, just a check he wrote. Kind of general. But then eventually, Steve picks up one of these calls.
Okay, finally talks to someone.
Yeah, right. And the woman on the phone gives her name, says she's from the security department of the bank where his friend deposited the check. Says it's a recorded line.
Oh, recorded line. Interesting.
Yeah. And here's where it gets, well, really specific. She knew Steve's name without him confirming it.
Whoa, okay.
She knew the friend's name, the person the check was made out to. She knew Steve's bank, where the check came from. And she knew the friend's bank, where it was deposited.
Hold on. She knew both banks, the payer and the payee.
Both banks and both people's names, all without Steve offering up anything. This is like the key detail, I think.
That's a lot of specific information.
Yeah.
Way more than you'd expect from some random cold call scam.
Absolutely. It doesn't feel like a typical phishing attempt where they're just guessing, you know.
Right.
They had concrete details about this specific transaction.
So Steve must have been immediately suspicious, right? I mean, why would his friend's bank call him? He's not their customer. Especially after the check already cleared.
Exactly his thought process. It just felt wrong. Standard practices, well, not that.
So what reason did she give? Did she even try to explain this weirdness?
She did. She said something like, oh, the bank just calls sometimes to confirm checks, especially if they haven't seen a check from that particular writer to their customer before.
That sounds thin. Really thin.
Right. So Steve pushed back. He asked, you know, the obvious question. Why wouldn't you just call your own customer, my friend? The guy who actually has the account with you.
Yeah, makes sense. What did she say to that?
Okay, get this. Her response was basically, well, your friend would obviously just say the check was good, implying they don't trust their own customer.
What?
But they trust a random non-customer, the check writer, instead. It's a bizarre logic for a bank.
Wow. That's not just unusual. That sounds completely backward. Trust a stranger over your own client.
It makes zero sense.
Yeah.
So Steve, at this point, he's just annoyed and, frankly, a bit creeped out by the whole thing. He just hung up.
Can't blame him.
And he made it clear he gave them no personal information. Nothing. And he had the call recorded, too, which is smart.
Good call on recording it. But yeah, even without him giving info, the whole situation raises flags, doesn't it? Just the act itself.
Definitely. It touches on, maybe implicitly, some legal points, or at least procedural ones. I mean, a bank calling a non-customer about a check that's already cleared, deposited by their own customer. That's way outside the norm.
It really deviates from what anyone understands about how banks are supposed to operate.
Yeah, and the fact the caller had all those details, names, banks involved, it points to some kind of data access, doesn't it? We don't know how they got it.
Right. Not saying it was some massive breach necessarily.
Yeah, not necessarily. But someone outside the normal flow seemed to have specific info about this single transaction, and that's worrying from a privacy perspective.
It really is, and it just shows, how scams might be getting more sophisticated. They use bits of real, maybe leaked or publicly scraped info to sound legitimate.
It makes it harder to spot the fakes.
So let's boil down the main points of confusion here. First, the big one. Could this possibly be a real bank procedure? Just a really weird one.
Steve's gut feeling was no. My gut feeling is no. It just doesn't track logically for the friend's bank to call the check writer after the money's moved, especially instead of talking to their actual customer.
Agreed. Okay, second point then. If it wasn't the bank, which seems likely, how on earth did they get that specific information?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The sender's name, the recipient's name, both banks. That's not public knowledge floating around for just anyone. It suggests something targeted.
Targeted, yeah. Where did that leak from? We just don't know.
And that leads straight to the third puzzle piece. What was the scam? If they didn't ask for account numbers or passwords during that call, what was the play?
What was the end goal? Was it like a long con, build fake trust for a later attempt, or try to get some other piece of info indirectly? Steve himself said he couldn't figure out what they were actually trying to achieve.
It's perplexing, but then Steve did something crucial. He followed up.
He didn't just let it go.
No, he was suspicious, right?
Yeah.
So he called the bank the woman claimed she was from, found their official number, called them directly.
Smart move.
And the bank representative he spoke to, they confirmed it, flat out. That phone number the caller used, not one of theirs, not associated with their institution at all.
Okay. There it is.
Big confirmation. And the rep even added that they get reports like this frequently. Similar suspicious calls claiming to be them.
Wow. So that's pretty definitive then. That call was bogus. Fake number, fake caller.
Absolutely. That feels like the turning point in figuring this out. It shifts everything. We're not trying to understand some crazy bank policy anymore.
Right. We're now firmly in potential scam attempt territory. The question just becomes, what kind of scam and how did they get the initial info?
Exactly. So if it wasn't the bank, and they already knew so much specific stuff, Steve, his friend, the banks, what were they missing? What piece were they trying to get? Or what was step 2 supposed to be?
It's such a curious transition, isn't it?
Yeah.
They have enough to sound credible, almost too credible in a way.
Yeah, like suspiciously well-informed.
But what was the actual objective? If not getting account details right then, what else?
It leaves you feeling really uneasy, even though Steve didn't technically fall for anything. That feeling of violation almost.
Totally. That sense that your financial details, transaction details might be out there, accessible in ways you don't understand.
And it really does highlight how sophisticated these attempts can get. Using real data points to build a believable story. It's scary.
It is. And the question just hangs there, doesn't it? The question Steve had. What was the end game here? What were they actually after?
Makes you think twice about unexpected calls, that's for sure. Even ones that sound like they know what they're talking about.
Definitely gives you pause. A lot to chew on there.